All right, January 1st, 2026. Let's start off with the fit check. You know, we're Dharma glowing right now. We decided to be a little bit loud with the colors today because why not? Like, let's be bold, right? Okay, so got some things on my mind. Let's talk about it. So I feel like at the end of the day, yesterday, I was feeling this pressure to, post my end of the year recap and that sort of thing, which I ended up doing. But when I was trying to encapsulate the totality of my story, I was zooming out to all these different scales because Dharma Glow is at the end of this 5-year cycle and there's been so much that's happening, but this year was so powerful and there was so much that happened. And I was like, do I really even need to communicate all this or can I take more time? And what I decided was, I was like, I'm tired, I'm gonna rest. And once I decided I was tired, I was gonna rest, and I was authentic with myself about what was true for me, I then got a burst of energy to actually create some things. And then I had fun creating because there was no pressure. So I realized that the key to life for me and the highest vibration is authenticity, right? So my word for 2026 is authenticity. And there's this spectrum of consciousness that I feel like David Hawkins, I'm not sure. He wrote Letting Go and Power versus Force. But there's a spectrum of consciousness that he popularized that has to do with different emotional states resonating at different vibrational levels. Just like notes are different frequencies, like these vibrations are different levels. So like shame is lower than anger because anger has this like forward momentum. So none of the states are wrong. It's just about having awareness about where you're at and then ascending the ladder of consciousness, because you're probably not going to go from like shame to peace. You may have to go from like shame to anger to acceptance, to wisdom, to whatever, higher and higher. But I think on that scale, peace is at the top. Like it's love or peace, right? So love or peace is at the top. And you think about it and like that makes sense. Like love or peace, where you're like not disturbed by anything, like you're in full acceptance of everything. But then I thought about it and I was like, sometimes peace is not the way, right? Like if you think of these stories of these avatars, like Yeshua, there's that story about when he was at the temple in Jerusalem and he flipped over the tables. Some say it's because people were making a place of business of his father's house. And then a deeper dive into that is because people were sacrificing animals and then they were profiting off of death culture, which is like another topic that we can get into another time. But he wasn't peaceful in that moment. He was angry and he expressed his anger outwardly. He was fed up with the hypocrisy and the abuse that he was witnessing. So he made his presence felt and he flipped over tables and he had his like little whip out and he was like whipping things around. So the story goes, right? So another example from another tradition is from the Bhagavad Gita, which starts with Krishna being in conversation with Arjuna, who was a charioteer, and he was fighting for his kingdom versus his kingdom of brothers who were, allegorically representing a lower level of human-based consciousness. And he was representing the restoring to right order. And he was having an inner conflict because he didn't want to be violent. He was like, can we just avoid this confrontation? And what Krishna was communicating to him is that sometimes there is no avoidance of confrontation. So it's not about peace, it's about righteousness. So sometimes being authentic means confronting things that are out of alignment, right? So as you start the new year, you can think about like, what is your highest timeline? And what behaviors, what relationships, what things are in alignment for you living in your highest timeline and what things are working against that. And do you have the courage to confront what's not working? And sometimes that means speaking your truth in relationship. But it doesn't always have to be loud. It doesn't always have to be outwardly confrontational. It could be an inner realization and then a reorientation into deeper alignment. So I spent a lot of time last year processing in conversation, which can be useful at a certain stage, but to a certain degree, I realized I was outsourcing my power, because if you are relying on something outside of yourself to give you peace, whether it's a substance or a relationship or anything, you're fundamentally disconnected from the light of the Creator, because the Creator doesn't need anything. The Creator is incomplete in and of itself. And when we are in alignment with the will of the Creator, we experience heaven on earth. And when we are out of alignment with the energy of the Creator, we feel separation, we feel ego, we feel lack. So I would say, don't avoid speaking your truth or communicating honestly, authentically, but also really be honest with yourself. And we can utilize reflections and relationships to help bring us into deeper awareness, but it's not anyone else's responsibility to resolve whatever's going on within us emotionally or energetically. That's our responsibility. So we take our power back when we learn the tools to self-regulate, whether it be meditation, yoga, breath work, creative expression, service, whatever. And if you want to learn these things, you can do so in community with the Dharma Glow community. So those are some quick thoughts for today as we start the new year. Sending everybody positive vibrations and love. God bless you.